Welcome to Public Enemy Number 1, the police whistleblower. Well, it's been a while, but I'm back with Season 3, Episode 2. I'm recording this podcast on August 23rd, 2026, and just last week, I finally received the dates for the hearing on the merits of the Human Rights Tribunal proceedings. They are to take place November 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 2026. Now, I'm sure the lawyers on the other side will be filing to change those dates and say that they're busy, but I intend to fight to keep them as is, since we're now in our 9th year since these applications were filed in 2018. So let me clarify what is actually happening in November. In June of 2018, the police service brought a case against me at the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario. They were alleging that I contravened a human rights settlement. Essentially, they were alleging that everything I had said publicly, everything I had posted to my social media, even my business website and my testimony at the Ontario legislature was a violation of my resignation agreement. In response, I filed my own application at the Human Rights Tribunal accusing the police service and Brian Larkin of breaching the same contract. Now, I made many allegations up front, alleging that the police service was abusing the processes of the tribunal and that there was no legal basis for their case. Despite this, it has been allowed to proceed since 2018 till today. There was one preliminary hearing held in 2022, which only narrowed the scope of my application. I had initially accused them of breaching the agreement twice, and the adjudicator at the time did not allow my first allegation. So I am only able to proceed against the police service with one count of breach of contract, which is them appealing my WSIB claim, despite signing a contract saying they would not file any appeals against me. Their case is, again, alleging that everything I have said publicly, written publicly, that has anything to do with my employment is a violation of the agreement. They conceded in 2019 and stated that there was no general non-disclosure clause in the agreement, but they believed I was breaching the inherent purpose of the agreement. Now, if you watched my public labor arbitration hearings in my duty of fair representation against the Waterloo Regional Police Association, you would have been privy to some of the evidence I have against the police service regarding my resignation agreement. At that hearing, I presented evidence to show that the inherent purpose of my resignation agreement was never to prevent me from speaking. When I resigned, I was adamant that I would not resign if they were going to silence me and prevent me from speaking about my experiences working for them. That was because I knew the value of my experience, and I knew that after testifying at the Ontario legislature, they would have to listen to me and they would have to put provisions into the Police Services Act to protect future people that report misconduct. And in the end, that's what happened. I was successful in having that law changed to protect future police officers who report misconduct. Despite that, they have continued to proceed against me since 2018. And if you've been on my website, you know that I've been collecting the invoices that they've paid to their lawyer to continue this legal saga. And they're very close to spending $900,000 today. So I hope that you will tune into the hearings in November so members of the public can see what their money has been funding. What has this battle been all about? We have already been required to present the tribunal with all of our evidence and witnesses. And the strangest part is the police service is not calling a witness or presenting any evidence in their case against me. They say they will be relying on their cross-examination of me to admit any evidence. I am prepared with my witnesses and all of my evidence to both challenge their application and proceed with mine against the police service and Brian Larkin. Brian Larkin is now a deputy commissioner for the RCMP, so I'm curious to know if he will be in attendance as they claim. If you are interested in observing these virtual public hearings, you can RSVP on my website, policeversuswhistleblower.ca. By signing the RSVP, you're simply providing me your name and email so that I can safely provide you the Zoom link 1 week before the hearings begin. If you watched my Superior Court hearing in 2021, you would have witnessed the Zoom bombers that interrupted the hearing by sharing their screens and displaying obscene images. It had nothing to do with me, but the courts ordered a publication ban on the Zoom details, claiming that one of the parties had posted it to their social media and sent it out through their email distribution list. I felt that that was an insinuation that I was to blame for the Zoom bombing, although I had no idea who these Zoom bombers were, and they were not supporters of mine. I feel the incident was totally due to the fact that it was early in the pandemic and court staff did not quite know how to run a Zoom hearing and restrict participants' actions. Either way, it disrupted the hearing. So by RSVPing to watch the hearing, you're simply ensuring that you will receive the Zoom link to your email 1 week before the hearing begins. Now, I have a couple more topics I wanted to cover before my hearings in November, but today I wanted to talk about the recent police officer suicides. 2 weeks ago, 3 police officers from different police services across Canada died by suicide. 2 of those were Ontario Police Services. So I wrote an article on LinkedIn to look at how we've gotten to this place here, because I believe that we have a crisis right now when it comes to mental health and first responders. It's incredibly frustrating to me because these were issues I tried to address before the Ontario Legislature in 2018. Here is a clip from my presentation at the Ontario Legislature in 2018, where I'm speaking with Taras Natashak, who was an NDP member of provincial parliament at the time.
Because the PSA is given so much leverage as an employer-employee contract, and it oversees how we're treated as employees. And until the public start to realize how poorly we are treated as police officers, that's the cause of a lot of problems happening on the road. You have officers that won't admit they're suffering from PTSD because they're afraid to lose their job. So what are they doing when they're faced in a stressful situation on the road? They're doing the best they can, but it's not good enough.
So we extended as a province and as a government, we extended PTSD presumptive legislation to first responders, yet are prohibiting them from actually, or disincentivizing them to actually utilize those services.
Yes.
Yeah. How is that any measure of progress at all?
Right, it's not.
Yeah.
What Taras is referring to is the presumptive legislation that was tabled in 2014, which meant that if a first responder was diagnosed with PTSD, it was presumed to be work-related. Now, despite this presumption, what has happened is that police services have been appealing claims to try to obtain additional information about the member's medical state. I have personally heard from dozens of police officers across Ontario who say that when they came forward and asked for help, that's when they faced the most harassment and intimidation by the leadership at their police service. For some officers, this involves visits to their home by uniformed officers, surveillance of the officer, or in some cases, even misconduct charges. In some cases, it's the betrayal by the institution that only contributes to a greater psychological injury to the officer. Now, no one seems to be listening because I've been delivering this same message since 2017. In 2018, Ontario saw 9 police officers die by suicide. And in response, the chief coroner conducted a review into these suicides to try to find any systemic patterns. I wrote to the chief coroner asking if I could be considered as a member of the panel, but of course I was declined. In the end, there was only one member of the expert panel with policing experience, and the individual was a 30-year veteran. I really felt that they missed the mark by not having someone on the panel that had direct experience with how police services are handling these psychological injuries today. When the final report was released in 2021, I was again disappointed to see that the report did not make one mention of harassment, intimidation, or the weaponization of misconduct charges for those who are off sick. I believe the report completely missed the mark when it comes to the institutional betrayal and moral trauma that gets inflicted on police services once they admit they have an issue and need help. But you don't just have to take my word for it. The year after these 9 suicides, the CBC's Fifth Estate did a program featuring the OPP and how they treat members suffering from psychological injuries. I encourage you to watch the episode if you haven't yet. You can find it on the CBC Gem app or simply searching on YouTube. The title of the episode is Officer Down: Suicide and Harassment in Ontario's Provincial Police Service. These problems haven't gone away. They haven't even really been addressed. In 2026, officers from Durham Regional Police spoke out about the same issues existing within the Durham Regional Police Service. More and more police officers are finding the courage to come forward to speak about the way they've been treated in hopes to prevent other police officers from not facing the same treatment. But still, it doesn't seem like anyone is listening. I don't think anyone can really deny my experience and what I've been put through. When I say that they don't treat members who are off on sick leave very well, I say that because I experienced it. When I wasn't well enough to attend a compelled interview with professional standards, I was threatened with insubordinate charges. When I resigned from my employment, I already had a diagnosed psychological injury from my employment, and yet that hasn't stopped them from pursuing me like a dog with a bone for 9 years. When I first resigned in 2017, I did everything within my power to improve my health, but it's been incredibly challenging since 2018 having to defend myself in all these legal proceedings with the police service while they actively pursue me on additional allegations of breaching the contract. Remember how in 2022, on December 23rd, the Friday right before Christmas, they filed to amend their case against me and add 4 more years of allegations. They have known exactly what they were doing. They have known that I had PTSD and was under the care of a psychologist. It's for this reason that I can confidently say publicly that I believe their desired outcome was to achieve my suicide. There's no other logical explanation for it. They came after me, accusing me of breaching the contract, knowing that I was not breaching the contract, and they pursued their case for over 8 years. They are still pursuing it. They plan to fight at the hearing in November with no witnesses and no evidence. Is there any other litigant in Canada that would pursue a case this long on no witnesses and no evidence? I've been reflecting a lot lately on the past 9 years and what they have done to my overall mental and physical health. And most times, I can't even believe I've survived this long. As you know from my previous episodes, it hasn't always been easy, and I did find myself at a very low period in my life in January of 2023. But despite that, I am still here, I am still standing. If it wasn't for my close family and friends, I would not be able to say that. The only thing that keeps me going at this point is that I know I will be heard at some point. Even if the hearings are postponed and they don't take place in November, I'll still be ready. But as of now, I am scheduled to be heard at the Human Rights Tribunal November 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2026. All 3 days are public virtual hearings. If you are interested in observing, please go to my website and RSVP at policeversuswhistleblower.ca. I've been asked a couple of times lately what I propose is a solution to all these problems in policing. Well, that's the direction I want to take the next episode of the podcast, is looking at ways that the systems can be improved. A lot of it is what I already told the Ontario Legislature in 2018, but I plan to get more specific with my recommendations. Change is not impossible. We just need courageous people in positions of power to effect the right changes. And of course, it will take courage of leadership. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support as you too are helping me keep moving forward one day at a time.